Dome Runners TV, your guide to the Underhive and beyond.
Hey there, scabby scummers and gangers, Crimson Oracle here with another episode of Dome Runners TV. Today I'm going to be running you through all of the pistols that are available at the trading post so that you can get a feel for what weapons you might want to take as your sidearms for your various fighters. This is a comprehensive list of everything that's available at the trading post, including all the different ammo types and the stuff that's available at the black market. It is definitely a shorter list than we had with the basic weapons, and I think the next video will be special weapons, which will be even more in depth because there is a wide variety of those. But I think that these types of videos are a lot of fun to do because it's a chance for me to kind of go through all of this stuff and think about how I might use them and kind of what weapons I think are kind of my preference for my playstyle. So I'm interested in folks' opinions of what weapons you like in the pistols category. Which ones do you avoid? Let me know in the comments, of course.
If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe, and for as little as $2 a month you can become a patron and help support the show.
First up, we have the Venerable Auto Pistol at 10 credits and common rarity. It has a short range of 4 inches and a long range of 12. It has a +1 at short range, strength 3, no AP, damage 1, 4-up ammo roll, rapid fire 1, and sidearm. You can also get it in a reclaimed variant for 5 credits and with a 5-up ammo roll. And these are honestly dependable go-to for fighters who don't necessarily have the best ballistic skill, because basically what you're doing is just really hoping that you roll a hit and a good roll on your rapid fire dice. It's really nifty when, you know, someone gets 3 hits on an opponent with their rapid fire weapon, even if it doesn't happen all that often. Of course, the auto pistol is not as accurate as the las pistol, which does mean that it is a bit of a trade-off to take one of these. The las pistols probably have a bit of an advantage, but they're not available on every house list, and of course the auto pistol sometimes gets discounted, just like sometimes the las pistol gets discounted. These are honestly a great go-to for sidearms, especially for juves, because they're not going to be doing all of that much otherwise, and you know, you might as well just go for a numbers game and try to get as many hits as possible. Hopefully something gets through. I tend to prefer these over the las pistol. I understand the las pistol is better for suppression, but you have a significantly better chance of getting some damage through when your attack is able to do multiple hits. So I tend to lean towards auto pistols personally, although of course stub guns are another good option. And of course, next we have the bolt pistol, one of the more iconic weapons in Warhammer 40k, at 45 credits and rarity 8. They are a pretty substantial investment. It's almost as much as a plasma pistol, but it does not have the risk of blowing up in your face the way a plasma pistol does. Of course, it cannot overcharge, but it is a pretty nifty weapon. At short range, it is +1 to hit, 6 inches, and long range is 12 inches. Strength 4, AP -1, damage 2, ammo roll of 6-up, and sidearm. Of course, these will be difficult to reload, but unlike the plasma pistol, they can be reloaded. I'm not sure that benefit really is enough to justify the high price of the bolt pistol, but it is a, you know, rare and expensive piece of technology, so it makes sense what they are charging for it. These things are absolute low-level character deleters. If you have a bunch of chaff that your opponent is bringing to bear, these can be really fantastic, because hitting one is a decent chance that you're going to remove that model or seriously injure them, simply because of damage 2, allowing you to do 2 damage dice rolls, which increases the odds of a serious injury or death. Simple as. So overall, I would tend to say that it's a good buy, but you know, it is going to be a pretty hefty investment, and it will be, of course, competing with the plasma pistol, which does have some advantages. Next up, we have the Grav pistol. At 70 credits and rarity 11, you are going to have to be fishing for this one if it's not on your house list, because rarity 11, in my experience, usually takes a few attempts to get. 6-inch short range, long 12-inch, and a +1 to hit at short range. It does not have a strength value because it instead has the concussion and graviton pulse rules, and it has AP -1, damage 2, and a 5-up ammo roll. The blast is 3 inches, which is pretty nifty on a pistol, but it does mean that it cannot be used in close combat because it does not have the sidearm rule. It has the concussion trait, which causes anyone hit by it to be at -2 initiative, which can be useful when you're facing generally high initiative opponents, as you can bring them back down to normal and potentially knock them off of things or knock them off of bikes or generally mess with their day. For example, if they were planning on using Spring Up or other abilities that require an initiative check. Of course, the weapon also has the graviton pulse rule, which is why it does not have strength. Your opponent has to make a strength check with a 6 failing regardless of what their strength is. If they do not pass, you get to inflict damage against them, ignoring armor, which does make the AP -1 kind of confusingly unnecessary. But this is a really nifty thing to toss at your weaker opponents, especially if someone is clumped up in order to do group activations. You don't necessarily have to be, that accurate with it if your opponent has their models placed closely together, so even if you're not at short range, the weapon still has a decent chance of hurting someone. I tend to like Grav. I think that it is not the preferred special weapon type for a lot of people because the way it does damage is a little odd and makes it so it's more likely to hurt your lower level opponents and less likely to hurt your tougher, stronger opponents. But the fact is that a significant portion of models in Necromunda are going to be packing toughness 3 or 4, and combined with the fact that it's a template weapon and it has a effect that also debuffs the fighter, I think it is a useful weapon that can definitely be fun. The only downside is the relatively expensive price. Next up is another of our special weapon pistol variants, and I just want to note that pistols are actually a great way to get these special weapon effects at lower prices and can be just as effective, especially if you have a gang that is able to close or you have a lot of screening fighters who can keep your enemy off your back until you get into range. The hand flamer uses the same template as the regular flamer, but it is a weaker weapon. At 75 credits and rarity 8, it is relatively cheap compared to the high cost of the flamer, while still having the same area of effect. There is strength 3, AP -1, damage 1, and a 5-up ammo roll, and it has the blaze and template traits. This is of course incredibly useful because the blaze trait can completely take an opponent out of the game for multiple turns regardless of whether you wound, and the template is really nice because you can hit multiple opponents at the same time, increasing the odds that at least someone gets caught on fire, let alone wounded. The lack of AP does mean that this is a step down from the regular flamer, but the fact that it is, on a relatively cheap platform does increase the chance that someone will take it. The weapon overall is one that can be really useful, but you don't want to over-invest in template weapons when they cost this much. You can definitely put too much into very close-up shooting and get yourself in a situation where you don't have enough at range. But the nice thing about the hand flamer is that you of course can take another weapon, and you generally speaking can get a short range and long range weapon for less than the cost of the full flamer, so it's not something that you should necessarily sleep on. I think that they are nifty, and I think putting a few of them in a list every once in a while can really shake things up, especially if your opponent is not expecting them. And now, of course, we have the other basic weapon in the pistol category. Well, there are 3, of course. The las pistol, which is 10 credits and common. It has an 8-inch short range and 12-inch long range. It has a to-hit modifier of +1 at short range, strength 3, AP nil, 1 damage, and a 2-up ammo roll with plentiful and sidearm. So while the auto pistol is a spray and pray type of weapon, the las pistol is one that you take when you want to be able to keep shooting and trying to suppress your opponent. The primary goal is to hit them, not necessarily to actually do any damage, because if you can pin them, then they are going to be off their game. They're not going to be able to charge necessarily, and it can be a really effective way of doing board control. So the las pistol is for gangs that want to sort of suppress their opponent, while the auto pistol is more for gangs that want to try for weight of numbers, trying to do as much damage as possible. And I tend to prefer the auto pistol, but the las pistol can be really, really potent if you are putting a bunch of them on the board and you have counterchargers who can come in and actually hurt the opponents that you drop with the pinning rule. For another 20 credits, you can upgrade a las pistol to be a hot shot las pistol at the same range modifier of 8 and 12 inches, +1 at short, strength 4, AP -1, damage 1, and ammo roll of 4 up. You get almost a bolt gun for a 15 credit discount over the bolt gun. This is a really good upgrade. You of course do take a hit in the reliability by losing the ammo roll. You, of course, do take a hit in the reliability by losing plentiful and dropping your ammo roll, but I am never that concerned about the ammo roll. I know that, of course, eventually you're going to roll ammo checks, and those hurt when you do have the worst ammo roll, but personally, I tend to prefer higher strength, higher damage, and risk that occasionally it will jam or go out of ammo. So the Hotshot Las Pistol is, I think, a really great upgrade, and if your gang can take them at the start, then I think Hotshot Las Pistols are a serious contender for a good basic pistol, but the short range does limit their overall utility. This is definitely a great mid-game upgrade to seriously increase the damage of a las pistol based crew, and I don't think that you should ignore that if your gang happens to be taking las pistols. This is a perfect purchase. And here we have another of my favorite pistols, the Needle Pistol. At 30 credits and rarity 9, it has a 4-inch short range and a 9-inch long range with +2 to hit at short range. It does not have strength, it's AP -1, damage dash, ammo roll of 6 up, and it has the scarce, sidearm, silent, and toxin rules. So this gun is a bit of an odd duck. The fact that it has toxin means that it's going to wound more readily than strength 3 weapons against opponents who have the same toughness that the strength 3 weapon would be hitting in most cases. And of course, it does have the scarce rule with the 6-up ammo roll, which does mean if you go out of ammo, you are very likely to drop. But the fact that it has toxin is fantastic, especially because it's a pistol. You can get into close range. You can get someone with the toxin dart, and when they go down with a serious injury because you bypass the number of wounds that they have, you are going to be able to coup them. It is not necessarily the best for suppression because it has very short range, and it is not as likely to hit because it has the same close range modifier as the auto pistol, but it is devastating when it goes off, especially when you hit an opponent who has, a high toughness and a lot of wounds, and they, you pass the toughness test and suddenly they are on the floor and you have defeated them. It can really work well when you pair it with the Chem Synth, which is a somewhat expensive upgrade to make this weapon more effective, but I think it is well worth it. Next up, we have the plasma pistol, which is 50 credits and rarity 9. On the low setting, it has a 6-inch short range, 12-inch long range, +2 to hit at short range, strength 5, AP -1, damage 2, 5-up ammo roll, and the scarce and sidearm rules. So this gun is a really dependable, great weapon to put on a fighter who you are going to be closing in with the enemy on. It is half the cost of a plasma gun. It is just as effective when you get in close, and it does have both fire options for low and high. It is higher strength and the same damage as the bolt pistol. Actually has a better ammo roll while also having the downside of being scarce, so if you run out of ammo you are done. But I don't consider bolt pistols to be that different because rolling a 6-up ammo check to reload is not exactly easy and not necessarily likely to happen over the course of a game. Of course, the weapon also has a high strength mode. You have less of a benefit to hit, but you do have strength 7, AP -2, damage 3. And let me tell you, that will get work done. Damage 3 is amazing for getting multiple rolls against your opponents that have more wounds, and the strength 7 is going to wound even ogres and things like that. So it is a really, really reliable pistol. The only downside is that it is a little bit common for people to take a lot of them, and as a result it can be a little bit annoying just because there's so many other choices and it's fun to see other options. So I tend to take a limited variety of plasma, and I tend to, stick to either 2 plasma pistols total or 1 plasma gun and not take more than that. But of course, your mileage may vary. If you're playing with a lot of high toughness opponents, it might be your best route to go for getting those wounds in. And now for the third of our variety of light pistols, there is the 5-credit common stub gun with a 6-inch short range and 12-inch long range. It has a +2 modifier to hit at short range. It is strength 3, AP dash, 1 damage, 4-up ammo roll, plentiful, and sidearm. This weapon is first and foremost cheap. It is also very accurate within 6 inches because of the +2 to hit. This is a great weapon for turning juves into significantly more accurate shooters, and it is not as likely to run out of ammo as the reclaimed auto pistol, which is the same 5-credit cost. Overall, I really like these, and particularly I like them because they can be upgraded with the very useful Dum Dum rounds, which increase the damage to strength 4. This is a 5-credit upgrade, which puts it at the same cost as the las pistol and the auto pistol, and it combines the higher damage output of strength 4 with the fact that it is on a cheaper platform. This is a great one if you are facing a lot of opponents who are toughness 3 or toughness 4 and making your strength 3, less effective because it's hitting on a 4-up or a 5-up. Next, we have the web pistol, which at 90 credits is the most expensive of the basic trading post pistols. It is rarity 9 and is a template weapon with strength 4, a 6-up ammo roll, and the silent, template, and web rules. Of course, the fact that it's a template weapon already makes it nifty because you're going to be hitting multiple opponents who are very close and potential charge threats, and the web rule means that if you do manage to wound, then the opponent is going to be treated as seriously injured, which is brutal. It is seriously disruptive, and it can really ruin someone's day. In fact, web is so good that I generally avoid taking too much of it because it can be a little bit unfun for the opponent. At a cheaper price than the full web gun and still a decent chunk as effective, especially against toughness 3 opponents, I definitely think that the web pistol is a good go-to. The fact that it ignores armor and just completely lays people out in range that you can coup them makes them really nifty, but a little bit too effective if you take too many. The game also has a variety of combi pistols. These are weapons that combine a main weapon with an additional special weapon that is attached to the same gun. There is the auto pistol hand flamer, which at 65 credits is really nifty, but does have a risk of hurting yourself with the hand flamer option. There is the auto pistol plasma pistol, which at 50 credits is honestly not my favorite choice, simply because the weapon is the same cost as just buying a plasma pistol. I know the fact that it has 2 different firing modes means that it is more likely to keep shooting when it fails an ammo check, but of course the weapon doesn't have the higher strength firing mode of the plasma pistol, which is pretty limiting. The bolt pistol hand flamer is an impressive 110 credits, and you can understand why, since it combines one of the better weapons for shooting with one of the better template weapons. And I do think that it is a nifty weapon, but I think that at that price I would probably rather purchase a special weapon, but of course it depends on what's available to that fighter. There is also a bolt pistol plasma pistol, which is honestly a gun that I don't find to be all that compelling, simply because it is already something that I think is kind of in the same niche, so I'm not sure why you would need to make a combi version of it. And finally, we have the Stub gun plasma pistol, which at 40 credits is actually cheaper than the plasma pistol and is a really nifty go-to weapon. It is, of course, going to have the damage output of the plasma pistol until the plasma component runs out of ammo. And then you have the Stub gun, which, while not amazing, is a still useful shooting weapon that can still suppress people because it's more likely to hit at that same range. Overall, I really like the Stub gun plasma pistol. It is a more reasonable price than the other combi weapon options and is still very effective. And just as with the basic weapons, there are a variety of additional ammo types that are available to your basic pistols. For auto pistol, there is plant buster rounds. They are 15 credits and rarity 9, and they grant the defoliate and scarce traits to the weapon. Defoliate causes it to do extra damage when it hits carnivorous plants and brain leaf zombies, so it is useful if you happen to be fighting in those bad zone environments, but otherwise is something that you can safely ignore, at least until your arbitrator starts throwing the various plant monsters at you. There are also phosphor rounds, which are 10 credits for auto pistols, and they give the flare and scarce traits to the weapon. Flare causes a fighter who takes a hit from it to be revealed. Now, this is situational, of course, but if you find yourself playing a lot of pitch black scenarios, it can be extremely useful, because one fighter with a flare can make that opponent easily a target for the entire gang. Rad rounds are kind of a consolation prize that makes up for the fact that there's not a rad pistol. These work for the auto pistol. There are 20 credits, and they give rad phage and scarce, which does mean that there is a 50-50 chance when you hit someone with them that they will take a flesh wound regardless of whether you wound. This is really useful, and 20 credits is a really reasonable price, so I think it's well worth taking, especially when you've been playing with your fighters for a while and it's time to invest in upgrading their auto guns. There are gunk bolts for your bolt pistol, which will give it +1 to hit at close range and -1 to hit at long range, and it'll change the AP to dash and damage to 1, and it gains the gunk and limited trait and loses rapid fire, all for 15 credits, which honestly I don't really like. In theory, gunk is supposed to be a more affordable kind of blunderbuss style bolt gun ammo, but the fact that it costs more and it reduces most of the benefits of using a bolt pistol, all for the fact that it hits slightly better, I just don't really understand why you would use this. It's got the gunk rule, which does reduce their movement and initiative, and does mean that they're more likely to get caught on fire. I guess you could try to chain combo it with flamer, maybe if you were going for that as a strategy. But overall, this one just doesn't quite work for me. It just doesn't. I don't really see what the benefit is of paying the extra, all to make your weapon work overall fairly worse. But it is kind of fun to, have this thematic thing, and I think an arbitrator might, hand out bolt guns that just have gunk as a prize at some point or something like that. That might be interesting, but otherwise this is a weird one that I don't quite see the point of. We have focusing crystals for las pistols. They do increase the weapon to AP -2, but they replace plentiful with unstable. After a failed ammo check, you roll a d6, and on a 4-up, the fighter's taken out of action. It's not honestly the best upgrade when you compare to the I think superior hot shot, which is also cheaper, but AP -2 is nice if you have opponents who tend to be taking lots and lots of armor, but overall I think this one is a bit of a pass for me. Next, we have static rounds, which are 10 credits and illegality 9. These are for the auto pistol, and they add the shield breaker, shock, and limited traits to the standard profile. Shield breaker allows the weapon to ignore assault shields, energy shields, and field armor saves must roll 2d6 and choose the lowest. And it also has the shock rule, which causes auto hits onto hit rolls of a 6. And this is really nifty if you happen to be, trying to outfit your sort of lower strength fighters, your fighters who are not going to be as dangerous. The fact that you can take a fighter who hits on 5s and 6s and make it so half the time when they do hit, it auto wounds actually can really increase the damage output on that fighter. So this is actually a pretty solid upgrade, comparable to like upgrading to hot shot las pistols, but it's cheaper and it is a lot of fun. The only downside is that it's illegal, so if you are taking it, there is a chance that your gang will wind up getting outlawed. There are warp rounds, which are 15 credits and illegal 10. For the auto pistol, these modify the standard profile, they remove rapid fire, and they gain the cursed, limited, and single shot rules. Cursed allows the model hit by it to make a willpower check or become subject to the insane condition, which is a lot of fun. Unfortunately, at single shot for 15 credits, I'm not sure this is worth it, as the odds of you missing with the auto pistol are kind of high for the fighters who tend to take auto pistols. So it's just not, I think, reliable enough to be something that I would be looking to add to my gang, but your mileage may vary. There are gas shells for the bolt pistol, which are 25 credits and rarity 11. They modify it to AP dash and damage 1, and you lose the rapid fire trait, but you gain 3-inch blast, gas, limited, and single shot. This, of course, is incredibly nifty, even though it seems like you're losing out. You are essentially giving your gun a blast profile and ignore armor because of gas. The only downside is that it's a single shot, which is pretty tough to deal with. So I think that it's a really useful upgrade, but it is expensive for one shot. Shatter shells are another option for the bolt pistol. At 15 credits, they modify the standard profile to strength 3 and damage 1, and you lose the rapid fire 1 trait, but you gain blast 3 inches and limited, which is kind of a side grade. I feel like it is essentially turning your bolt pistol into a frag grenade from actually maybe more like a frag missile, where you got that 3-inch blast and the AP -1, but it's still strength 3, and it's limited. I don't know. I think that this is one that is at least has some kind of utility for making the bolt pistol work a little bit differently and adding some flexibility, but it is something that you're gonna have to buy every time you run out, so I don't know. I could go either way on it. There is the Inferno pistol, which is 145 credits and rarity 12. It is incredibly expensive for a 6-inch short range, 9-inch long range gun with no to hit bonus, but it is strength 8, AP -3, damage 2, and Melta scarce and sidearm, all kind of with the 6-up ammo roll. This is a weapon that absolutely deletes people. It is great for if you have a model that's on a bike and wants to have a pistol for shooting at vehicles. This is one that will absolutely mess someone's day up if you can get them in range. The only downside is that if someone knows you have a multi-pistol, they are going to make it their job to eliminate that from the game. So overall, a good gun, but one that's kind of pricey and makes you such a target that fighter is going to get a ton of attention. So it can be used for creating kind of a target priority confusion for your opponent if you have another fighter that you want to keep safe. But I do think that it is useful, but it is, definitely expensive for what it is. And last but not least, we have the Wither Touch pistol, which is 55 credits and illegality 13 because it is a chaos artifact. It is a 6-inch short range, 9-inch long range pistol. It has no to hit modifier, strength 3, AP dash, damage 1, ammo roll of 6 up, with the Melta, Sidearm, Silent, and Toxin rules. Essentially, this is a super needle pistol. Because it has the Melta rule, it means that if you result in an injury dice, which the Toxin rule makes it fairly likely that you will, then you will immediately take the opponent out of action. Now, the downside is that the gun does not have any AP, which will make it harder to put down your more dangerous opponents, and you have to get within the 6-inch range in order to have that activate. But overall, it's kind of nifty. It's expensive, but being able to one-shot delete any opponent that isn't a vehicle is pretty cool. So I definitely think it's worth considering. And that is going to do it. Thank you all for watching. That is 2 of the categories down. So I'm just going to keep hitting these categories in between doing videos about the various gangs. And eventually we'll have a comprehensive review of everything. Thanks as always to my patrons. You guys help keep this show on the air. Without you, there wouldn't be Dome Runners TV. So thanks. Keep up the support. I love all you guys. And of course, if you're interested in becoming a patron, you can do so at patreon.com/DomeRunners. For as little as $2 a month, you can help support the show and have your name appear here at the end. And of course, check out the podcast, domerunners.buzzsprout.com. And as always, everybody please stay safe and don't forget to change your paint water.